Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari. Bharadhari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari. Gopi Jana Ballava Giribharadhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Udanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Udanandana Raja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Munatira Nachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Kunja Bihari. Jai Prabhupada Jai. Prabhupada Jai. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada Jai. Prabhupada Jai. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Tennessee Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading today Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. I believe it's text 42. Is that right? I think that's what I was told. Anyway, it's an interesting verse, so we'll read it. It's a really, another one of these super powerful verses. Now, maybe I should just read the Sanskrit, because, okay. I'll just read it. We'll do it. Tam Atmano Vijaniyat Pati Apatya Grihatmakam Daivopasaditam Mrityum Mrigayo Gayanam Yata Tamatmano Vijaniyat Patya Patya Grihatmakam Daivopasaditam Rityom Mrigayo Gayanam Yata. The verse is there, is it? 42, chapter 31? 42, okay. Tamatmano Vijaniyat Patya Patya Grihatmakam Daivopasaditam Rityom Mrigayo Gayanam Yata Tamatmano Vijaniyat Patya Patya Grihatmakam Daivopasaditam Rityom Mrigayo Gayanam Yata. Janiyat Patya Patya Grihatmakam Tam, the Lord's Maya, Atmana, of herself, Vijaniyat, she should know, Pati, husband, Apatya, children, Griha, house, Atmakam, consisting of, Daiva, by the authority of the Lord, Upasaditam, brought about, Mrityum, death, Mrigayo, of the hunter, Gayanam, the singing, Yata, as. Translation: a woman therefore should consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the external energy of the Lord for her death, just as the sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In these instructions of Lord Kapila Dev, it is explained that not only is woman the gateway to hell for man, but man is also the gateway to hell for woman. It is a question of attachment. A man becomes attached to a woman because of her service, her beauty, and many other assets. And similarly, a woman becomes attached to a man for his giving her a nice place to live, ornaments, dress, and children. It is a question of attachment for one another. As long as either is attached to the other for such material enjoyment, the woman is dangerous for the man, and the man is also dangerous for the woman. But if the attachment is transferred to Krishna, both of them become Krishna conscious, and then marriage is very nice. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate, which is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first part, chapter 2, verse 255. Man and woman should live together as householders in relationship with Krishna only for the purpose of discharging duties in the service of Krishna. Engage the children, engage the wife, and engage the husband, all in Krishna conscious duties. And then all these bodily or material attachments will disappear. Since the via medium is Krishna, the consciousness is pure, and there is no possibility of degradation at any time. Tam atmano vijaniyat patya patya grihatmakam daivopasaditam mrityum mrigayo gayanam yata. A woman, therefore, should consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the external energy of the Lord for her death, just as the sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshtarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Pramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so we've mentioned this point in principle on a few occasions actually over the last few weeks. We've been going through these verses much more often than not. You find that when points are made in Shastra about someone which involves someone doing something, then in much more cases than not, you'll see it just expressed as he did this and he did that, and this is good for him and this is not good for him, this is bad for him, and he will find himself in difficulty, or he will become attached to the material world. We find things expressed like this more often than not, but as this verse is pointing out, really, and the previous verse for that matter, they are really focusing from the perspective of the lady, and it's very, in principle, it's the same thing. It's just the same thing, in principle, basically, as it is for the man. He should do this and shouldn't do that. Well, she should also do this and not do that. Yes, that's just the way things work in this material world. Otherwise, whether one is rich or poor, whatever sort of racial or cultural background one comes from, what one's age may be, and ultimately whether one's got a male body or a female body, it doesn't make that much difference. They're just different ways of going about things within this material world. Otherwise, as Srila Prabhupada noted here, we read that a man has a tendency to become attached to a woman on the basis of certain specific things, and these are just very common, on the basis of the service rendered to him by the lady. Often it's said that if a woman wants to, what would you say, just sort of catch the attention of a man and sort of attract the man towards her, which, anyway, we all know it's the material world, things work like this, then among a few other things, but one very important thing she should do is render service to him. And men have such a sort of tendency, a proclivity, because men have this deeply ingrained tendency to feel that they should look after women, protect women, and take responsibility for women. This sort of idea is there. And if the woman serves him, which basically means she's taking a humble position before him and treating him respectfully, doing things for him, then this plays on that tendency that he has to want to feel superior and that he's looking after, he's the head of the family. Still in some countries, by law, it used to be here as far as I know. It definitely is in Russia. The husband is the head, legal head of the family. And he therefore has rights to sort of rule the family, you could say. So, yes, so a man becomes attached to a woman because of her service and her beauty and other things. There's a number of things. And a woman becomes attached to a man because he gives her a nice place to live, gives her nice jewelry, clothes, gives her children. Normally, but in so many cases, ladies are really attached to the idea of having children. Don't mind me saying that. We have heard these things. Whereas men, it's not such an issue. It's really not such an issue to have children as such. So in this way, this this is nature's arrangement on a certain level, one can say, that men have certain nature, women have a somewhat different nature, but they tend to fit together. And this is, yes, I just said nature's arrangement, but which nature? The material nature, Maya's arrangement. And in this way, a man gets caught, as we read, the man gets caught in different ways by the attractiveness of the lady in different ways. And in this way, his future, the possibility of him particularly progressing in Krishna consciousness, if it was ever there, but it's lost. But the same thing happens to the woman. Same thing. What is a woman there for? The woman is there to go back to Godhead, actually. And we know this is the only possibility for happiness and success in life, is to try to progress in Krishna consciousness and ultimately go back to Godhead, or develop love for Krishna like that. And along the way, get out of the entanglement in this material world. That's life. That's what life is meant to be within this material world. And the way it's put in the same type of way as the verses we were reading, very strong statements about what happens to a man if he becomes caught up with a lady in those particular materialistic ways. Well, what happens is he just becomes destroyed and goes to hell. But the same thing happens to the woman. Just the same thing. As the verse, as Lord Kapila says, that a woman, an intelligent woman, should understand that a husband, a house, and children are the arrangement of Maya for her death, for her destruction. Yes, just as the sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer. Yeah, there's that practice. I don't know if it's just in India, but it's definitely in India, that the hunter, in order to catch, not just catch, but kill the deer, the hunter needs to have a device, almost like some sort of musical device, put it that way. Not exactly a whistle, but some little musical device which he blows on, and it makes sweet sounds. And the deer is attracted and comes and approaches, and then the hunter kills. This is going on. This is going on. So these warnings are there for all of us, and we all really need to take note. Otherwise, obviously, even the possibility of actually falling down from Krishna consciousness, talking about amongst the devotees, even the possibility of falling down out of Krishna consciousness, and then at the end of the lifetime, just like Bharat Maharaj, he fell down, his mind became attached elsewhere. We all know that story very well. And he, of course, he's special in that he was a very advanced devotee before. He was on the level of Bhava, But the fact is that even though a couple of lives later he got delivered, but the thing is, in the next life he took birth as an animal, and to take birth as an animal is hellish. Just like in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 40. Neya Bikramanashasti Prachavayana Vijite Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. That just a little advancement in Krishna consciousness can save one from the greatest type of fear. And what is the greatest type of fear? Or what is the most dangerous thing, the most, the thing which if you get it means you just lose terribly? It's to be born in lower species. And Bharat Maharaj, I think we all know the story basically, he may well have been sort of like special. He took birth as a deer, but not your run-of-the-mill deer, so to speak. But there was still some consciousness from the previous life. So while in the body of the deer, he went and stayed at or next to nearby an ashram of devotees, and he would spend time there, and very quickly the devotees understood this is a special deer, so they'd feed him prasadam and all this sort of thing, which, is very good. In the next life he became Jad Bharat and sort of completed the cycle. But the thing is that to take birth as an animal is a hellish birth. Yes. And he wasn't saved from that. He was saved in the sense of having some higher consciousness, so he associated with the devotees and took prasadam, etc. But still he had to take birth as a deer. And when a person takes an animal birth, other than if there's some very special circumstances, it's really a terrible thing. You get these a few animals here and there in India who become attached to temples and like that. I saw just a few days ago one either alligator or crocodile which lives in a temple in India and is friendly. Really? So I guess the crocodile gets prasadam or whatever, something, right in the temple room. And then I saw some time ago, in one temple somewhere, there is it an eagle, some sort of bird? I don't know if it's an eagle, but some sort of bird. It comes every day at a certain time. Yeah. So you get some animals, special cases. When we were at Cato Ridge, one of the devotees, I don't know how it happened, but one of the devotees got a dog, a Labrador, which is, as dogs go, which is not very far, but as they go, it's a kind of more peaceful and gentle type of dog. And this devotee was quite proud of the dog. The devotee living in the temple. But there was one problem with the dog. He or she or whatever would eat the frogs. Haribol. So, well, we could use one. Oh, and of course in Bhaktivedanta Manor we had that cat I've mentioned before, a female, Nrsinga Devi, who we got to eat the mice. And she went for it, I tell you what. Gosh. So it's very rare. What happened to Maharaj Bharat, or, in these other cases you sometimes get these animals so the elephants, like in Guruvayur, if you've been there, the elephants that carry the deities. I remember actually on Padayatra in Europe, we had these 2 bullocks, and every morning they would get up and, they wouldn't be tied at night, they just, sort of free. But they would get up and themselves, they'd come and stand next to the Padayatra cart, and wait. They were into it. And they really wanted to pull the deity, little deity chariot thing. But otherwise, Mahato Bhayat, the most dangerous type of fear, the worst type of fear, to take birth in lower species. So, yes, so this is a problem. And if one allows oneself to become, while living in a sanctified place, particularly living in a temple with devotees, with devotional service and nothing but devotional service to do, one has to be very careful not to sort of harbor those types of aspirations. Yeah. Particularly as you get older. I think some of you here are a bit older. I may be the oldest, but, no, maybe you're the oldest. Anyway, whatever. Not so many of us are young. And we, particularly in the later stage of life, one really has to see that one's mind doesn't take one into this sort of area of, the fascination, the interest in household life. It's a real danger. It's a real danger. But otherwise, well, as Prabhupada says, it's a question of attachment for one another. As long as either is attached to the other for such material enjoyment, the woman is dangerous for the man, and the man is also dangerous for the woman. So therefore this attachment, this propensity, has to be transferred to Krishna. And then when the attachment is transferred to Krishna, then even as Prabhupada describes here, Prabhupada talks in terms of householders. So then being householders, Prabhupada says, if the attachment is transferred to Krishna, both of them become Krishna conscious, and then marriage is very nice, provided it really is like that, and not just an excuse, to appear to be Krishna conscious, but actually to really be on the material level, in fact. So, yes, the basic principle is to keep engaged in Krishna's service, keep engaged in devotional service. Therefore, as devotees, we're careful not to really get into having time off, as we would jokingly say, It was actually our old friend Bimal Prasad, if you remember him. He had, funny ways of putting so many things. But a day off, if you have a day off, he would say, it's a day to be off. It means just a day to not be Krishna conscious, just be materialistic. But that's not part of the sort of the formula or the recipe for progress. Rather, we should keep engaged. And Prabhupada would say that for a good devotee, 24 hours a day is not enough. Not just in the sense of keep busy, but in the sense that it's good for us to keep engaged. It's very good. It's highly beneficial to keep engaged. Not just beneficial in the sense like, it's good for you. When you're a child, your mother tells you, eat your vegetables, they're good for you. If they're just plain boiled vegetables, they're good for you, even though they're not nice. But they're good for you. But Krishna consciousness, keeping engaged, is good for you. But it's not just good for you, but it's very nice. It's very blissful. And the more you can keep engaged in devotional service, as long as you don't try and do too much, because then, that's another thing. But otherwise, we should keep really fully engaged, and we'll be very happy. We'll be very happy in devotional service. So if we do like that, if we keep engaged in devotional service, and Prabhupada particularly applies it here in the context of Krishna conscious household life, that only for the purpose of discharging duties in the service of Krishna, only for that purpose, the householders, man and woman, engage the children, the man engages the wife engages the husband, and everyone gets engaged and keeps engaged. And then the situation is pure, and then everyone is very happy. And as Prabhupada says, then there's no possibility of degradation at any time. So this disease of being attached to the body, your own body, in certain ways, and attached to the bodies of others in certain ways, usually other ways, and particularly in this way, on the basis of attraction between the senses. That attraction, that attachment, it is the gateway to hell. And we read about that some weeks or even a few months ago in the previous chapter or chapters, that hell is not a place you want to go. It's not a place you want to go. We heard, I hesitate to say it actually, but we were told years ago that Srila Prabhupada said that the popular musicians, entertainers for the youth back in those days, that they were sent from the hellish planets to drag the young people down. I think now it's a lot worse. I think now it's really a lot worse. And some of them I have heard or read a little. They actually talk specifically about going to hell. Something like that. Krishna, save us, please. It's really, really bad. They don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing because it's real. And when you go there, then it's not like you can be a wealthy entertainer talking about going to hell, in your opulent clothes and with all material facilities. But when you actually go there, Hare Krishna. Yes, anyway, Charlie Watts died yesterday. I don't know if you've heard of him. Anyway, if not, don't worry about it. These poor people. I mean, he wasn't as bad as some. Actually, he gave £5. Yeah. He gave a £5 donation. I remember the day. Not to me. This one devotee, Mahabhuj, came and told us, I met Charlie Watts. And he said Hare Krishna and gave £5. So that's something. The rest, not so good. Yeah, so the gateways to hell, Krishna, Krishna. We have to avoid them. And not just avoid in the sense of just avoid, but really develop the positive program of engagement in devotional service and not just get sucked into the tendencies which are there because of our conditioning. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comment or question? Yes.
I was wondering that if a devotee, by chance, he has to go to hell for something, and remembers Krishna, chants Hare Krishna, and what will happen?
Okay, the question is, if a devotee somehow goes to hell, but while there chants Hare Krishna and, practices Krishna consciousness, what will happen? Well, if the devotee sticks to it, then sooner or later they'll go back to Godhead. But there are problems with the hellish planets, in a certain sense, and there are problems with the heavenly planets in this context, in that when a person's in the heavenly planets, the material facility and just the materialistic atmosphere and facilities and all that is just so prominent that it's extremely easy for someone who's a devotee to become overwhelmed and not to really remain focused. And therefore we read, it's in the Bhagavatam, that the demigods they're praying to take birth in Bharatvarsha, means here, basically on this planet. Because, there's certainly some material opulence, etc., but it's nothing like that. And on the other hand, there's quite a lot of suffering and difficulty, which is a warning. And then the hellish planets, the problem is that it's really very difficult, extremely difficult, because life is just so extremely painful and just so much brutality and horror that, of course it's a negative impetus for Krishna consciousness, but sometimes it's just too negative and the people can't manage to remain Krishna conscious. So, therefore, be it from the heavenly planets or the hellish planets, if they can come to these middle planets, then it's much better it's much easier for their Krishna consciousness. But if someone somehow or other goes to hell, a devotee, for some reason, and they really practice Krishna consciousness, then they can go back to Godhead. Yeah. They can go back to Godhead. Directly from the hellish planets, it's possible. Maybe they'll have to come back to this level and, really develop their Krishna consciousness better. But they certainly can go back to Godhead from the hellish planets. But very advanced devotees, they may go to the hellish planets to preach, but because they are really advanced, they're not affected by the horrific conditions. One devotee actually, one in particular, many years ago in Prabhupada's time, was preaching in the Middle East, I think in Lebanon or one of those places just around there, and got captured by the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and they didn't know what to make of him, and they tortured him. Yeah, I mean, it was very extreme. And he told us after he got out, he was there for a year or a year and a half being abused, and other of the prisoners were being killed, And he, it really very severely affected like his psychology, his emotions and everything. And I don't know what happened to him after that. Yes. Oh.
Now many more grihasthas than brahmacharis. Does this mean that society has an unhealthy bias in development?
Aha. They are now in Krishna consciousness. Okay, well, let's say in Krishna consciousness, many more householders than brahmacharis or brahmacharinis. Does that mean there's an unhealthy balance? Bias. Well, one thing it does mean is that the material tendencies in those regards really are very strong and can't be overlooked or taken lightly. I remember back in the good old days, in Prabhupada's time, there was this whole atmosphere, really quite an atmosphere, that, amongst the brahmacharis, we are just going to remain brahmacharis, and that's it. Yes. There was a sort of mantra, take sannyas, not grihast. Really. And there was this sort of sense of bravado, perhaps, or zealousness or something along those lines. And, they were trying. They were doing a lot of preaching and book distribution. But fast forward, that was in the 70s. Fast forward to now, or, the last 20 years perhaps, and the vast majority means more than 90% are householders. Yeah. So, definitely means that, the those tendencies are very strong, and to just say, yeah, we're not going to do like that, it's not easy to do. I mean, not really very effective. But if, there are many householders who are very good devotees, actually. There are many, really many. So in those cases, it's not an unhealthy bias. And it's important, particularly as the movement develops, it's important that the people, the ordinary people, see very good examples of Vaishnav Grihastas. How family life can be happy on the spiritual platform in Krishna consciousness. And in this way, really be like very noticeably better, even for people who are not devotees. But they would see that this family is noticeably better than your typical materialistic family. That's very important. That's really important. So, of course you do get those who they really struggle with the regulative principles particularly and things like that. And, well, that's a shame. But hopefully, as time goes on, they'll become more serious. So therefore, I wouldn't say it's really like a bias in the wrong direction. I think wouldn't really be the right way to see it. Yes. Yeah.
It's an interesting sort of dynamic we've seen from the 70s to now, like the shift in the ratios. Like in the 70s, so many brahmacharis temporarily were always focused on renunciation, and it started shifting into the other direction.
Right.
Householders. And the priorities in the 70s for those devotees was sort of like renunciation, surrender, those are priorities.
Yeah.
But now there's different priorities. It's sometimes a representation of an aversion towards full-on surrender, ashram life. And so I could see like this, I wouldn't say it's imbalance, but the shifting in priorities based on where people see themselves. And it does bring up concerns sometimes that because you've got a large number of grihastas, and when they pool all their interests and their concerns together, sometimes it comes out like ashram life is not very attractive, it's not very
Yeah.
interesting. And that could be dangerous.
Well, yes, Damodar Prabhu is saying how previously in the 70s particularly, it was just all the devotees were living in the ashram. When I joined, there was one or two devotees who we recognized as devotees who were not living in the ashram. Everyone else was living in the ashram. But now it's changed, that the great majority are not living in an ashram. And so, but the thing is, as Swarup Damodar Prabhu was saying, that there is sometimes amongst some or however many, the idea that like living in an ashram is not good, renunciation is not good, that sort of thing. That's an unhealthy bias. I've seen it in a few at least, of my own disciples, that when their children showed interest, or not just interest, but actually moved into the ashram, they got really, really upset. Really upset. In fact, we have one case right now, slightly different, in England. One young man, parents are initiated devotees. Yes, very nice, it seems. And now he wants to be initiated. He's sort of mid or whatever, 20s something. Very nice. He wants to be initiated, but his initiated already parents don't want him to be initiated yet, until he's married a girl from his own, caste, community, and they are sort of, they're established, then he can be initiated. And she might or might not be a devotee too. The main priority is the same caste. And, we had this classic situation in Mauritius, going actually several to 10 years ago. Same thing, parents initiated devotees, nice people, apparently. And the girl wanted to marry a boy from a lower caste. Wow. And the parents rejected the girl, just rejected, no longer their daughter. Oh yeah, it was spectacular. I had to try to preach to the father. No chance. So that's, the wrong bias. Yeah, because, there's a sort of, you could call it a danger, or I don't know. You could call it a danger, but it's an unrealisticness of, young people living in the ashram and getting all sort of excessively and unrealistically enthusiastic about, we're not going to marry, we're going to just take sannyas. That's quite, something. That's one thing. But then on the other side, there's this type of situation too, where the material situation, where they're devotees. They're chanting 16 rounds, in many cases initiated, and, sort of basically supportive, but they are overly well situated materially for no good reason. They're overly well situated materially. And, therefore, to get into Krishna consciousness more than a certain point, then they start feeling that it's too much. Hare Krishna.